Boom. There it is. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to We Are ACEDS live streaming live on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. My name is Mike Quartararo. I'm the president of ACEDS. Today, we are going to be joined momentarily by Jonathan Rossi, founder of CGK, and Chris LaCour, founder of Sub4 Capital. There's been a little bit of movement in the industry, and with respect to Chris's e-discovery retreats, and ACEDS has been a fan and worked with both Chris and Jonathan for many years. So we wanted to jump on here live and talk a little bit about what's happening. Jonathan and Chris, thanks so much for making time to join us today. I hope you and yours are well. Welcome to the broadcast.
Hey, thank you for having us. We love it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
So listen, for those who don't know, let's spend 2 minutes just telling everyone a little bit about you guys. Jonathan, tell us a little bit about you and your role in CJK.
Yeah, sure. So I'm an attorney by training, and I never was interested in practicing law, or I wasn't good at it. Who knows? One of the two. And I ended up founding the CJK group. That's a long story how that happened. But I'm an entrepreneur. I'm the owner, founder, investor of the cyber security company based in Japan. That's a separate conversation called Saya University. And then the CJK group is a company that I founded, it's been a couple of years now, a few years after law school. And people don't know, CJK, I think you fumbled over those words, right? CJK stands for China, Japan, and Korea. So it's not my initials or anything like that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And apologies, all those consonants close together. I think it's. Yeah. Anyway, so Chris, tell us a little bit about Sub4. Tell us a little bit about your journey, and what's happening with you.
Yeah, no. So Sub4 came about during COVID. At that time, I wasn't hosting any events, and I didn't do anything virtual. I took the time to reflect and wanted to continue on in my path in working with people. And many people know that I'm a people person per se. And so, given all of that, I essentially decided that I wanted to change careers and make another change. And the change was planned, but it happened all of a sudden. But in short, it happened during COVID. And over the past few years, I've been building Sub4 Capital. And what we are, in short, is we're a quantitative hedge fund, which is a fancy way to say that we use machine learning-based algorithms to trade financial markets. So that's what I've been working on over the last 2 years. And I've met some great people in the discovery information governance space that has helped shape my perception and view of machine learning and artificial intelligence. And so that's gotten hold of me, and that is my new passion. And interestingly enough, I continue to host the events, and we had an event back in November. Not many people are aware of that, but we did have an event in November of 2021 at the Pelican Hill in Newport Beach, and that was just prior to Omicron poking its head out into the mass public. So we got in and got out, and it worked out. And so after that, I was taking some time to reflect and think about what my next moves were going to be in 2022. And lo and behold, we find ourselves what I'm trying to say is we find ourselves today here talking about this acquisition. So that's, it wasn't planned, but it happened. So that's what I was meaning to say. Yeah.
And that's a perfect sort of segue, if you will, right? So for anyone who doesn't know, the e-discovery retreats that Chris founded and organized for many years were some of the best e-discovery sort of information governance conferences that sort of traveled the country and went from city to city. And I was always a fan and a participant, and loved them. They were great events. And so the topic for today is what happened, why is this happening? And I think we'll start with Chris, but Jonathan, I want to get from you, where is this going? So Chris, what exactly is this transaction? I understand that CJK has acquired the eDiscovery Retreats portion of the business. And so what does that mean for you, Chris? And then we'll go to Jonathan.
Yeah, that's correct. Many people were familiar with the retreats, and I've been hosting them for, over 10 plus years. And so the retreats, that component, that business segment was a business. It had its own separate LLC and its own separate revenue. And Jonathan and I came together organically, rather indirectly, and over dinner, we quote unquote made a deal and made it happen and moved very quickly on it. In short, what that means is Jonathan has acquired the eDiscovery Retreats business. The CJK Group acquired that business, and they are the new owners. And what I am agreed to do is I'm going to stay on board with the CJK Group this year to assist with the transition and ensuring that the reputation and just the training of the new employees over at the CJK Group goes over smoothly, so that Jonathan can continue to grow and sustain what is the eDiscovery Retreats and what people have come to love and attend over the years. So that's what that all means.
Awesome. Jonathan, congratulations first. But where do we go from here?
We're going to go a lot of different places. So I've always respected Chris's retreat program. He didn't mention, but I was a volunteer many years ago, almost 10 years ago. I was just coming out of law school at the height of the recession back in 2009, 2010, around that time. And so I was a freshly minted lawyer trying to figure out where I was going to go in the legal profession. I hadn't started a company at that time, and I was volunteering. I helped Chris put up and support one of the events early days. This is very simple. He was gracious enough for me to participate. I didn't have any money to be able to sponsor. I wasn't a vendor. I wasn't anywhere in the industry. So I came simply just to learn about this thing called eDiscovery information governance. So that's where the relationship started. And I've been attending since then for a number of years now. And so what you're going to see is a continuation of that conversation. But what I would say we're going to do is broaden that conversation to include a lot more cross-border conversations. And we're going to tie it into a lot of our work as a company. Our work is almost exclusively doing cross-border litigation support work, and we are based out of the US and in Japan. So we're very, very close to a lot of the cross-border work that's happening, whether that's dealing with large data sets sitting in China or Japan, and the conversations around privacy. We're very attuned to that. And so we want to be able to bring that conversation both to the retreats, expand in that, and then also offer a retreat program to add into our Asia Pacific retreat program. And many people don't know, ACEDS being one of them who has participated in our previous retreats in Japan. So we're going to be adding that to the end of 2022 as a continuation of the conversation. Some people are focused on just the domestic market and having that conversation, but a lot of times internationally, people want to know what's happening in eDiscovery, what's going on in data protection, what's happening in that field. And so we want to be able to bridge and merge those two. And so we have, with this acquisition, the combination of being able to do that. So that means you, Mike, and the team at ACEDS will have to fly over the Pacific and make yourself out there to Japan, speak on a panel, discuss about like standards and what eDiscovery is. And that's a form of what we've been hosting in Japan for the last 3 to 4 years.
Awesome. Let me ask you, because you mentioned some of your work in the cyberspace.
Yeah.
Are the retreats going to expand a little bit beyond just eDiscovery information governance? Will you go into cyber? Will you deal with privacy and some of the other sort of adjacent fields?
Well, so the answer to that question is yes and no. So okay. For the US program, Chris can speak to the compliance, privacy. There is some natural overlap, so it's hard to say this, kind of artificially say, no, we're not going to speak about that. But generally speaking, I'm going to be focusing on the cybersecurity compliance in Asia Pacific. And Chris will probably continue on a lot of the pure play cyber discussions in the United States. Maybe you can expand on that, Chris, and the differentiation, because there is a difference there for in terms of the purpose of this acquisition.
Yeah, Chris, it sounds like you're not going anywhere. So
No. You know what's so interesting? Everyone knows that I was hosting these e-discovery retreats, and cyber started to gain a lot of momentum over the years, and so I started to host cyber retreats. And the theme was, or is, cybersecurity, privacy, and data protection, and that's a whole nother business unit that runs all those cyber retreats. So what I started to do over the last few years is I would have the e-discovery retreat fall on like a Monday, for example, and then on Tuesday I would have the cyber retreat. And so some people from the e-discovery side would stay over that extra night and interact with a whole new group, which includes chief information security officers, chief privacy officers, heads of data protection, CTOs, CIOs, right? So, but all of those topics were, security, privacy specific. So we did a lot of conversations, had a lot of conversations on compliance, regulatory compliance, HIPAA, GDPR, CCPA, all of the above. So, and we're going to continue on with that this year. So with the retreat schedule, it's typically going to be on a Monday, and then following that day will be a cyber event more times than not. And so people that want to attend the event, and kind of mix it up a little bit, they can. And so, yeah, that's a separate a business unit. Who knows? Jonathan's doing so well. Maybe he's going to acquire those assets later.
I mean, speaking of cybersecurity, I don't know if you know, Mike, but there's a different company outside of CJK that we've invested in and we run. It's based in Japan, and it currently is the largest security, training, compliance, awareness content company in Japan. So we produce training awareness for employees outside of the English language. So we've started with Japan, and we're looking at other languages, Spanish, Indonesian, Vietnamese. And the whole premise there is cybersecurity is difficult. Employees need to be trained. And a lot of the content in the Western world is designed and built for an American first audience, generally an English speaking audience. And so we looked at that thesis and said, that's a problem. And so the last 2 years, while Chris is building his quant fund, I was building what is today the largest security awareness and compliance training content digital library. It's kind of a mouthful. Essentially what it is an e-learning platform, but all of the content is in language outside of English. And so we license this around the world, primarily Japanese companies, but a lot of global companies are also taking our content and integrating that into their learning library for their employees that are dispersed around the globe who don't speak, whose English is not their first or primary language. And so in terms of cybersecurity, I am very deep in the cybersecurity space. And of course, I will be talking with Chris as it progresses to see what will come in terms of the US domestic cybersecurity industry, because we're not really playing in that space per se. We're mostly focused on the Asia Pacific and the global audience and the cyber compliance side. So
that's awesome. Incredible work, and appreciate what you guys are both doing in the industry. Tell me a little bit about sort of opportunities. Who should get in touch? Who should come to these retreats? And how do they get in touch?
Yeah, I'll speak to that. So if anyone wants to attend the retreats, they can email retreats with an S at thecjkgroup.com, and that they can respond there or put out their inquiry. We're going to have 3 e-discovery specific retreats. The first one's going to be at the Lido House in Newport Beach. That date is Monday, May the 23rd. It's a one-day event, so people would typically come in on Sunday night, especially if they're coming from out of town, check into the resort, and then we'll have like some dinner events that night. And then the following day, they can get up in the morning, get their badge at the registration table. And then the way the ballroom is going to be broken out is one half of the ballroom will have technology demonstrations. So for those that attended maybe the retreats years ago, I didn't have that. I had 2 tracks that were concurrent. We have changed that model. And so on one half of the ballroom, you'll have technology players in the space, both e-discovery and information governance, demoing their wares. Now, what's interesting is on the first half of the day, it'll be about an hour and a half long. And then outside of that in the afternoon, it'll be another hour and a half. And then in between all of that time, we'll have panel discussions in the other ballroom right next door to it. So it'll be there'll be an air wall in between both rooms, and there'll be panel discussions all throughout the day. So you'll have from morning till the afternoon. The event will end around 4:30 p.m. that day. People will be able to go in and listen to panel discussions, see some technology. One of the reasons why I had the technology demos was because a lot of people just weren't in tune with what's the latest and greatest. Many were resorting to traditional review platforms and analytic tools, and so given that I've been very fortunate to interact with lots of these CEOs, I wanted to at least make people aware of what's out there, what's kind of the latest and greatest, and what may or may not apply to their practice. So that's how that's all going to work. On the cyber side, we've got 6 retreats. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on all of those dates, but a lot of them will be right the following day to the e-discovery retreat. And so, people can, again, ask about that. We can send them some information. As far as who should attend, certainly you have vendors who are going to be assisting, sponsoring, and underwriting the event. And then, those people can be consulting firms, service providers, and technology providers. And we'll probably have between about 8 to 10 sponsors per given retreat. And then on the general attendee side, we're right now, Jonathan and I, having calls with lots of folks coming from the law firm side. So the AmLaw 100, typically partners who are heads or co-chairs of their e-discovery practice group within the firm, or they're an e-discovery lawyer, coming from all across the U.S. By the way, just because the retreats are in Newport Beach doesn't mean that they're Newport Beach centric or L.A., Orange County, San Diego centric. In this retreat that we're having in May, very diverse, extremely diverse. It's actually the most diverse I've seen in quite a while. We've got people coming from the Midwest. We've got people coming from Seattle. We've got people coming from Las Vegas, Texas, Florida. So it's going to be a very diverse group. And then you'll have, your local attendance from Orange County, San Diego, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. And again, titles that'll include e-discovery analysts, litigation support directors, and the like. From the and that's essentially it. I was going to just mention, from a perspective of the way that we envision these things, we want to keep them smaller, more intimate. So expect about 125, 135 people, and just continue to build on that community. I mean, that was really what I was concerned about in this acquisition. I told Jonathan, there are a lot of work, and are you really committed to continuing on with that reputation that I built? Because I have a very good reputation. People know that I'm very responsive and that I do what I say I'm going to do, and we get things done. So the commitment's there. I'm excited. Jonathan and I have a lot in common, and it couldn't have gone to a better person. And I'm really happy to see this transition because, much in part, one thing that I want to make clear to everyone is, for Sub 4, we're onboarding, our clients, and essentially for them, we're going to be hosting investment retreats as well to help, grow their knowledge as to make better decisions with their money. So, I had to let go one of them because as I just couldn't have the means to do everything. It's impossible. And I've been hiring people and training and doing all that, but even then it's a lot. So I'm excited, and it was a good time, and I'm going to still continue to be part of the events. People don't need to worry. A lot of people have been asking me questions. Chris, are you going away? No, I'm going to be here.
You'll be there.
Yeah, I plan to be involved, and moving forward, I mean, we'll see what happens. I may not go to every single retreat that Jonathan has, maybe on the East Coast or what have you, but the local ones, I suspect that I'll be there, and I do want to see the growth and assist in any way possible. So, yeah, I told Jonathan he has our support, and whatever we need to do to continue to drive, drive thought leadership, we'll do that.
Jonathan, who should? Well, let's get your thoughts on opportunities and expectations for future retreats.
Lots of opportunities. I find myself always in a place where education is such a core component of what we do, both as CJK pre-acquisition, and then also in the cyber business, where we're really about dispensing valuable, practical information that is resonating for the audience and in their language. In the case of the domestic retreat, obviously it's going to be mostly in English, but the idea here is you're going to see the same kind of consistency that you've had in the last 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
And now what you're going to have is a lot more broadness and diversity. And we did, and I don't know if Chris, you remember, but during COVID, I had a summit retreat that I put together. It was supposed to be hosted in Japan. And we had 63 speakers, 23 countries. And the idea was we want to bring a global conversation together. And so, as Chris mentioned, it's going to be a very diverse format. We're going to be actively increasing the voice representation. And what that means is we want to have people who typically have not attended attend. And we want people to really learn about what this thing about discovery is. So it's not just about practitioners, but it's also about us as people in an organization. How does data affect them, whether that's from a privacy perspective? And so what you're going to see in a lot of these events is intimate conversations, but also a lot of networking opportunities. It's not just we're going to come together. The caliber of the locations are always going to stay consistent. That's another thing we didn't mention is, if you notice, the last 11 years, how many times did these events get hosted at beautiful venues? And that's a very deliberate thing. And it's expensive to host it at the Ritz-Carlton. I hosted it at the Mandarin Oriental in Tokyo. It's $1,000 a night just to start. But we want to make sure, and it doesn't mean we want to exclude people. There's a lot of ways in which we can still make people participate, even if it's expensive, and there's a lot of magic that can be done behind the scenes. But the goal is we want people to have a good time when we come there. We don't want them to come and say, oh, it's another conference. And there's a reason why it's on Monday, Tuesday. We want them to come in on a Friday or a Saturday, have a good time, bring their families, their significant others, enjoy that. And we think that helps increase their ability to retain information. And that goes back to our cybersecurity business. Is we've done a lot of research in how people learn. And people learn when they are actually treated properly and when they have the right kind of feelings and sense of inclusivity. And so we look at that, and all that is deliberate. Chris spent a lot of time. And a lot of times people don't see all the things that happen. They just see the day of, that first day or second day. But there's like 1,000 hours that goes into a single day production. So all that will continue. And if not, it's just going to expand. So people have more options to go across the country, or they can hop on a plane, go 13 hours east. And I'm sure, Mike, you're probably going to have to be there, right? You have an obligation to have to be out in Tokyo.
It sounds like all you keep doing is cajoling me into traveling to Japan, and so I guess my first trip to Japan is in the offing.
You will have, yeah.
Well, fantastic. Listen, for our listeners, you heard it here. And before we go, we're running short on time, so I don't want to cut you guys off or anything, but. Anything new to announce? Anything interesting coming up? We got Legal Week in a couple of weeks. You guys coming out? What's happening?
I will be there.
Awesome.
Yeah, I will. I don't know about Chris, but I know I will find myself in Midtown Manhattan.
And I wouldn't mind hanging out with people and seeing it. Yeah, we'll figure it out. I mean, I haven't given it much thought, but we're just all hands on deck with our events. I mean. And just really quickly, if I can just make a quick plug on the dates, because I forgot to do that, I believe. Monday, May the 23rd is going to be the first retreat at the Lido House in Newport Beach. And then the Ritz-Carlton Amelia Island is in Florida. That date is going to be Monday, July the 25th. And then last on the list for the retreat will be Monday, November the 14th, excuse me, at the Lido House again. And then Jonathan has plans to incorporate a Tokyo Summit, and I don't want to speak for the actual month, but it looks like it'll be December. So, anyone can, respond, reach out to us. I would like to see as many people as possible because obviously I'm withering away, so to speak. So it would be nice to, meet people that I saw back in Cape Cod and, back in Carmel in the early days of Carmel Valley. That would be really neat. And other than that, look, I've dedicated about a decade of my life to doing this and doing it well. We're one of the very few that are standing, and I just think it's a great opportunity to have a fresh pair of eyes and some ideas, and I'm just happy to be going along for the ride. So I couldn't be more happier again working with Jonathan, and I think just between the two of us, we'll do some more creative things.
Well, I, for one, have been a fan and a supporter and will continue to be. ACEDS will be there for you in any way we can help. I want to take a minute to thank you both for joining us today. It's been a great conversation. And that'll do it. That's a wrap for us. Thanks again for joining us, everyone.
Thank
If
you.
you are interested in our short form video interviews, you can find We Are ACEDS Live on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and check out ACED's YouTube channel for previous interviews and live streams. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a great day, everyone, and be kind to one another.
Thank you.
Thank you.